In-laws are crazy, but my girlfriend's mother, Amara, took things to a whole new level. At first, I thought she was friendly, just a nice older woman who only wanted what was best for her daughter, Daisy. When I first went to her house for dinner, she seemed pleasant. She complimented my looks and said that she was happy for her daughter who found a good one. Our dinner was pleasant, though Daisy did most of the talking. I'm a pretty quiet, reserved person, which was why I was happy to be with somebody who was so outgoing and chatty. Opposites attract, I guess. Anyway, things seemed totally fine until Daisy left the table to use the restroom. Amara and I were left there alone. She asked me a couple questions about my family, but as I was answering her, she totally flipped out. She reached across the table and swiped my glass onto the floor. It shattered, and Pepsi flew everywhere. Daisy ran back in, drawn by the noise. Her mother acted like I broke the glass myself. It's okay, dear. We all have clumsy moments, don't we? I tried to argue, but that made things worse. Daisy thought I was blaming her mom for something that I did. She needed to take responsibility for my own mistakes. To keep the peace, I was forced to apologize for something I didn't do. The moment seemed to characterize all my future interactions with Amara. She genuinely treated me kindly when Daisy was watching, but as soon as Daisy left the room, she blamed me for crazy stuff that I didn't do. She accused me of making a joke about her weight. She said that I laughed and I would mention her dead husband. She even let out a fart that filled the room one time, and Daisy walked back in. She screamed, "Jesus, Nico, what did you eat?" All these little mind games were putting a real strain on my relationship, not because of any of them upset me, but because how I hated Daisy sided with her mother every time. I thought we loved each other, and it really bothered me that she never took my side. This went on for months. Daisy and I started arguing more often, and some of the things she said to me made me think Amara was filling her head with lies about me, even when I wasn't around. Eventually, I had enough. I needed to give Daisy some space to let her realize that her own mother was a psycho. I packed up a few things and asked my dad if I could crash at his place. He'd recently gotten a divorce, so he was more than happy to let me in. Over a few beers, I told him all the crazy things that Daisy's mom had done in the last few months. He got this really weird expression, as if he knew something that I didn't. "What did you say her name was?" "Amara." He suddenly jumped out of his chair and ran into his office. He came back a few minutes later with a box of Polaroid photos that he kept from college. I didn't understand what was going on until he pulled out a photo of him and Amara. They both looked so much younger, and Amara was thinner back then, but it was definitely her. My mom explained he dated Amara in college. He said she was great in bed, but always been a bit unhinged. He tried to break up with her multiple times, but she refused to accept it. He ended up ghosting her right after he met my mom. When Amara found out he moved on to someone else, she broke all the windows of his car and taped his picture all over campus with the word cheater written in lipstick across his face. Sounds about right. You gotta stay away from that woman, son. She's crazy. And obviously, she's punishing you because she's still angry at me. I knew he was right, but I still loved Daisy. I decided to take Dad's old photo to Daisy as proof that her mother had a vendetta against me. Dad tried to talk me out of it, but I didn't listen. I drove right back to our apartment, praying that Daisy would be there by herself. I let myself in, but Daisy wasn't home. Amara was. She was standing in the middle of our living room with a big box of my stuff in her arms. It looked like she was already clearing out everything I owned, probably to throw in the garbage. "I know why you're doing this." I showed her the photo. She stepped closer. "Let me see that." She snatched the photo out of my hand, and before I could do anything, she shoved it in her mouth and started chewing. "Nice try. You're just as stupid as your father." She took a long time swallowing the Polaroid. It was painful to watch. Then she shoved me, ready for a fight. I had no intention fighting an old lady, but she wouldn't stop pushing me. She shoved me into the wall right next to the couch, which was open to a fold-out guest bed. She kept screaming my dad's name, as if she thought that's who I was. She balled up her fist, ready to punch me in the face, and to protect myself, I grabbed her by the waist and threw her off to the side. She landed on the bed, which made me feel a little better about fighting an old woman. But then the bed creaked horribly. The force of Amara's fall triggered the fold-out of the bed. It immediately snapped back into the couch, and Amara was trapped inside. "Nico, what the hell?" Daisy stood behind me, horrified. She missed the entire confrontation, but she'd seen me throw her mother into the folding couch. Without any context, it must have looked like I was a total monster. This one moment had to confirm all the crazy lies that Amara had been telling her. "Wait, I can explain." Daisy didn't want an explanation. She pushed past me, grabbed the cushions, and pulled the couch back open. Amara's body flopped out. She was curled up, a bloody cut along her side. She was holding her clearly broken wrist. Otherwise, she looked fine. "This monster stormed in here and attacked me for no reason. He said he would kill me if I didn't force you to forgive him." Once again, I tried to explain what happened, but Daisy didn't listen. "It's okay, Mama. It'll be okay." Suddenly, Amara bent forward and started choking. Daisy patted her on the back. At first, I thought Amara was faking it, but to me, it seemed to be real. Then, we saw torn-up chunks of a Polaroid flop out of her mouth as she gasped for air. It landed at her feet. The biggest chunk showed both Amara and my dad's faces, finally proving to Daisy that her mother was lying to her. "Mom." Amara looked at Daisy and then me. She didn't know what to say. Then she pointed one finger and screamed, "He made me eat it." Daisy held her mother to comfort her, rubbing her back. That's when I finally gave up on the relationship. Thankfully, Amara had already put all my stuff in a box, and I picked it up and walked out. Screw you both. On March 1st, 2011, a Florida man was arrested for allegedly assaulting his ex-girlfriend's mother. The incident occurred in the victim's home in Palmetto, where Foreman, 53, asked to use the bathroom. According to the police reports, when the woman, 66, was lying on a fold-out couch, Foreman questioned, "What is this?" before allegedly shoving her onto the couch and folding it with her inside. The victim suffered an injury to the wrist and complained about back pain. She was hospitalized, and Foreman was charged with felony battery, held on a $250,000 bond.
You know that feeling you get when you're walking out on thin ice and you hear the faintest crack but you keep going? That was me 3 years ago, standing in Alex's dorm room, clutching a little pink Victoria's Secret bag. We'd been sort of together for months, 6 to be exact. I say sort of because Alex had once told me, eyes half-lidded and voice dripping in faux sincerity, that he wanted to be single, but with me. I laughed it off at the time, thinking maybe he was just scared of commitment. Maybe he needed space. Translation, he wanted his freedom, but he wanted me on standby when things got quiet. It was February 13th. I remember because I was holding $150 worth of delicate lace, and another bag with the wallet and sneakers he'd mentioned wanting. I was so sure I'd nailed Valentine's Day. I imagined his face lighting up when he opened the gifts. Imagined us tangled up after, all laughter and kisses. But that night, Alex texted, "Hey, can we talk?" My heart twisted. Not this talk. His dorm smelled like stale beer and Axe body spray. When I walked in, he was on his bed, scrolling through his phone, acting like I hadn't just spent half my paycheck on him. "Hey," I said softly, putting the bags down. "Happy..." He cut me off. "So, I think we should stop seeing each other." I just stood there. "What?" He didn't even look up. "I want to be single." That word hit me like a slap. "But..." I tried to keep my voice calm. You're already single. You wanted to be single, remember? Alex finally put his phone down, sighing like I was the one exhausting him. Look, I don't want to do this whole thing. Let's not make this dramatic. I felt the anger rise, but I swallowed it. Instead, I gave him a tight smile. Sure, I said, my voice shaking. No drama. I left the lingerie, wallet, and sneakers on his desk. Happy Valentine's, I muttered as I walked out. But here's the thing. I didn't really walk away. The first strange thing happened 2 days later. I was at home, lying on my bed, scrolling through Instagram, when a message popped up. He's at Chloe's. Thought you should know. The account was private, no profile picture. I stared at it, heart hammering. Chloe was the girl that Alex swore was just a friend. I didn't reply, but I saved the username. That night, I created a fake profile. New Gmail, new handle, fresh photos pulled from a random Pinterest board. I called her Amber. Amber liked hiking, coffee shops, indie bands. She was exactly Alex's type. I sent him a follow request. Not 2 hours later, he accepted. And then he messaged, "Hey, you're cute. You go to Madison?" For the next week, Amber flirted with Alex. She watched him lie effortlessly. She watched him talk about how his crazy ex was still hung up on him, how he was so over drama, how he was ready to have some fun. I should have stopped, but I didn't. Around this time, my anonymous informant struck again. You should check his Venmo. And so I did. His transactions were public. Flowers for Chloe, drinks with Maddie, concert tickets for someone called Tasha. My stomach twisted into knots. So I waited. And then, Valentine's night, I asked Amber to make a plan with him. A fake plan. You should come over. Roommates are out. Bring wine. He was eager. I booked an Airbnb under another fake account. Just a basic place, 2 neighborhoods over. I messaged him the address. That night, I sat across the street in my car, watching the window. He showed up right on time, wine bottle in hand, grinning like a teenager. I watched him knock, wait, knock again. And when no one opened the door, I saw his confusion melt into frustration. He pulled out his phone, called Amber. Of course, Amber didn't pick up. And that's when I slipped out of my car. I wore a hoodie pulled low, a scarf over my face, gloves. I walked right up to him. Hey, I said softly. Alex turned, eyebrows furrowed. Do I didn't wait. I slammed the metal pipe into his stomach. He crumbled, gasping. Remember me now? I hissed. He looked up, eyes wide, realization dawning. What the f... I hit him again, this time in the knee. He let out a strangled yelp. I leaned down, inches from his face. Happy Valentine's, asshole. I didn't kill him. I left him there, groaning, clutching his side. I got back in my car and drove away, heart pounding so hard I could barely see straight. But that wasn't the end. A few days later, I checked his social media. Photos of his bruises, captions like, got jumped last night, SMH, people are crazy. His friends sent him sympathy. Chloe left a heart emoji. But then, another DM. You're not done yet. My anonymous informant again. The next week, Amber messaged Alex again. Sorry, was out of town. Want to try again? And this idiot, he agreed. Same Airbnb, same wine, same setup. This time, I wasn't the one waiting. I hired a guy I found online. Someone who didn't ask too many questions. Paid him half up front, half after. Told him to scare Alex. Just scare him, no permanent damage. And when I watched from across the street, I saw Alex show up, cocky grin and all, only to have my guy grab him, shove him against the wall, and whisper something in his ear. Alex paled. He stumbled back, shaking his head, looking around wildly. I never found out exactly what my guy told him. That was part of the deal. But after that night, Alex went dark. Weeks passed. No posts, no check-ins. His friends started wondering where he'd gone. Chloe posted something cryptic about people showing their true colors. And then, one night, I got a message. He left town. This story is inspired from a real-life incident shared by one of our subscribers. This is what she told me, directly. Back in university, I was seeing this guy, and when we eventually had the "what are we" conversation, his answer was basically, "I want to stay single, but still be with you." Translation: "You're great, but I want the freedom to hook up with others, and if that doesn't work out, you'll be my fallback." As you can imagine, that really filled me with confidence. Not. Despite that rocky definition, we ended up staying together for about 6 months. And guess when he decided to break things off? The night before Valentine's Day, right after I had gone out and spent over $150 on lingerie to surprise him.
It was storming again. The kind of electric, pulse-thick rain that makes the world outside your window feel like a dying movie set. Monday, June 13th, exactly 3 weeks ago. I remember because I was sprawled on my couch in nothing but sweatpants and a stubborn sense of denial. Suits was playing, that episode where Harvey spins some legal poetry. I was half lost in it and half lost in the sound of my own chewing. I used to watch a lot of TV. Whatever number you're thinking, multiply it by 20. I didn't watch it. I devoured it. My TV was God. I'd skip meals, miss calls, forget birthdays. I even once slept through a break-in. That was the depth of it. I'd invited a few friends over to smoke and eat pizza. But one by one, they bailed. Colds, cramps, something came up. No one was coming. In the silence in the room, it started to feel personal. F*** it, I muttered, pulling the blanket up to my chest like it owed me comfort. I ordered from Pizza Bullseye. Cheap, greasy, fast. The kind of food that clings to your insides like guilt. 30 minutes later, the bell rang. I opened the door to the delivery girl, soaked, tall, hair dripping in loose curls that stuck to her cheekbones. Her eyes were feline, unreadable but watching me, like she already knew something I didn't. "Large pepperoni, extra garlic," she said. She handed me the box and smiled. No warmth, just slow suggestion. "You like discounts?" Of course. Who doesn't? Always. She held out a coupon, QR code, Pizza Bullseye's logo smudged with rain. "Scan that. Might just be your lucky night." I don't know why I scanned it. Maybe it was her voice. It hung in the air like smoke. The link opened up on my phone, then jumped to my laptop via sync bookmarks. It was strange. No branding, just a single video file in a black window. I pressed play. Static. Then, a face. Michelle. I recognized her. Everyone in town did. She'd been missing for 2 months. Posters in every gas station, grocery store, bus stop. But now she was on my screen, locked in some godforsaken room. Her body shrunken like a dying candle. She stared directly into the lens, and by extension, directly into me. "Please, I'll do anything. Just let me go," she rasped. Something moved in the background. A gloved hand, thick and deliberate, slipped a paper into her fingers. She opened it. Her hands trembled, eyes widening. She lifted the paper to the camera. 10 names. I recognized 2. Both locals who'd vanished just weeks before her. Number 8, Michelle. Number 10, me. I felt my stomach twist, like something had reached inside and tied a wet knot. Michelle stared past the lens now, toward whoever held her fate. Her lip quivered. "Dad, if you see this, I'm sorry." Then she raised a box cutter. "No, no, no," I whispered. She screamed as the blade cut down, camera shaking violently. The video glitched, then steadied, the sound of a body hitting the floor. Then, silence. Her name was crossed out. And just like that, my laptop powered off. The room was silent, save for the TV still playing some episode I no longer cared to watch. I couldn't move. My limbs were ice, breath caught halfway between scream and silence. I didn't sleep that night. I didn't go to the police. What would I even say? Hey, I watched a girl die through a pizza coupon link and now I'm next? No chance I was becoming some punchline on Dateline. So I shaved my head, grew a beard, packed a bag. 3 weeks later, I checked into a roadside motel in western Nevada. The kind of place where the walls were so thin you could hear your neighbors in real time. I laid low, ate from vending machines, drank from the tap, tried not to think. That night, it stormed again. Of course it did. The motel TV had nothing but static, so I wandered to the vending machine in the hallway. That's when I saw her. The delivery girl. Dripping, same uniform. Same goddamn smile. "You followed me," I whispered. She stepped close. The hallway light flickered above her head like a cheap horror set. "You scanned the code. That's consent." "What the hell do you want from me?" Her voice dropped, low and lazy. "Same thing everyone wants. Attention." She brushed past me, fingers grazing my arm. I flinched but followed. Her room was 2 doors down from mine. She didn't ask me in. She didn't need to. "I don't even like pizza," she said. She locked eyes with me as she kicked off her boots. "You want to know what the real discount is?" "What?" "Your life. Tonight only," she whispered. But something was off. Her hands were shaking. Her pupils were dilated. Her skin had that thin sheen of someone who hadn't been real for years. I stepped back. She tilted her head. "You think this is about sex?" "I think this is about murder." She smiled. "Both. But you already knew that." She pulled out a phone. Same video interface. Another girl on screen. Not Michelle. This one was newer. A barista from the coffee shop down the street from my apartment. She was screaming. The screen glitched. Then I saw me. My face, frozen mid-scan. "You're already in the system," she said. "What is this?" She stood, walked toward me, and pressed a cold hand to my chest. "This is content. Fear is the last honest emotion left in America. You people live for it. You binge on it. Eat it with your popcorn. We're just giving you what you want." "I didn't want this." "Yes, you did. You clicked. Remember?" I couldn't breathe. My throat felt full of pins. She leaned in, her face close to mine, her voice syrupy and slow. "You can still opt out." "How?" "Kill someone. Replace your name with theirs." "I'm not a killer." Neither was Michelle. She handed me a card, another QR code. "This time you choose." I didn't sleep that night either. The next morning, she was gone. The room had been cleaned out. No sheets, no towels, no trace. Only the card sat on the floor, mocking me. I burned it, and now I'm heading west. I don't know where. Somewhere with no internet. Somewhere pizza delivery still means just pizza. Maybe I'll change my name. Maybe I'll grow a beard thicker than the shame I'm carrying. But I had to send this over to Broccoli. To tell you guys. One last warning. Never scan something you didn't ask for. Never trust a discount you didn't earn. And if a girl ever smiles at you in the rain, run. Because the next time you see your name, it won't be on a receipt. It'll be on a list. My life was pretty great until my freshman year of college. That's when my mother died. I was so heartbroken I almost dropped out, but my father convinced me that my mother would want me to live my life. I took his advice and tried my best to move on. Unfortunately, my dad moved on a bit too quickly. Just months after my mom's funeral, he told me he met someone new, a woman named Rose. She had 2 daughters, Sarah and Mary, and they seemed nice at first. I didn't like being told to treat them like my mom and sisters, but I tried my best. I just wanted my dad to be happy. I guess he was. He seemed happy. But 3 years later, as I was starting my senior year, I got terrible news. Rose called me in the middle of the night.
Grayson, your father's gone. He died in his sleep.
I couldn't believe it. I didn't even know he was sick. I had to take the rest of the semester off and go back home to help with the funeral, even though he was my father. Rose and her daughters were so distraught that I had to do everything around the house. I planned the funeral, did all the shopping and cooking, and basically took care of my stepfamily while they did absolutely nothing to take care of me. It was awful and deeply unfair. Even worse, I started to suspect that Rose had something to do with my dad's death. It seemed really suspicious that she demanded he be cremated before the coroner could look at him. I started to see her in a new light, but I didn't have enough evidence to confront her about it. I was planning to go back to school the next semester and double up on classes so I could graduate with my friends. But weeks before I was set to leave, Rose told me she wouldn't pay for my tuition. She'd inherited all my father's money, and she said it would be better for me if I stayed home and helped around the house until they were done mourning. I knew that was just an excuse. I called up one of my college friends and asked him to pick me up. I'd take out loans and finish the rest of my year without my family's money. I'd keep my distance from Rose and figure out how I could contest the will, as well as figure out what exactly she'd done to my father. That was the plan anyway. When my friend Liam showed up outside the house, I had my suitcases ready. I was about to sneak out, when all of a sudden, Rose grabbed me from behind and shoved a chloroform-soaked rag over my mouth. As I passed out, the last thing I saw was my stepsisters answering the door and telling Liam I wasn't here. When I woke up, I was in the attic. My head was pounding. The door was locked and the window was too small for me to escape. I was trapped. I screamed for help, but no one could hear me. I was trapped there for at least a day before Sarah dropped off a plate of food and immediately locked the door again. For the rest of the week, I was given a single sandwich every day. Otherwise, there was no contact. My bathroom was a sink and a bucket. I had to dump the bucket out the window whenever it was filled up. I was a prisoner in my own house, and no one knew I was there. After a week, my stepmother opened the door and let me back into the house. While I'd been trapped up there, they'd added bars to all the windows and locks to all the doors. So even though I could go anywhere in the house, there was no way I could escape. And because I was so starved, I was too weak to fight them. Rose explained that every day I had to come downstairs and do all the chores. Once I was finished, I had to go back into the attic. I agreed to do what she said, but deep down, I planned to fight her and escape once I got my strength back. Unfortunately, I felt weaker by the day. I was horribly malnourished and always hungry. I had no energy at all. This lasted for a year before I realized that my paltry sandwiches were poisoned. Not enough to kill me, but enough to keep me sluggish and in pain. Through trial and error, I realized that the poison had been soaked into the bread itself. Once I figured that out, I developed a plan. I started eating the rest of the sandwiches and hiding the bread under my mattress. When I collected 2 weeks' worth of poisoned bread, I crumbled it into a baggie and slipped it into my stepsister Sarah's milkshake one day. She drank the whole thing, not noticing the taste. The next morning, she was deathly ill. Rose and Mary took her straight to the hospital, leaving me alone in the house. They were so worried about Sarah that they didn't think to lock me back in the attic. I couldn't escape through any of the doors, though. I had to figure another way out. I found paper towels and soaked them with hand sanitizer. Then I used a lighter to set it on fire and threw it into the attic. Pretty soon, the roof was on fire. I waited downstairs as the attic crackled and filled with smoke. I heard the roof crack, and I prayed that firefighters would come before the house caved in on me. As the room got hotter and smoke started to fill my lungs, the front door burst open and a firefighter grabbed me and pulled me to safety. I was taken to the same hospital where Sarah was being treated for poison. She died a few hours later while I was able to hang on. The police had a lot of questions, and I told them everything. How Rose had poisoned my father, pulled me out of school, trapped me in the attic for a year, and slowly poisoned me like she had my father. I'm sure Rose had plenty of excuses to hide her actions, but she was too distraught by Sarah's death to put up much of a fight. She was arrested that afternoon. I'm still recovering in the hospital, but once I get better, I'm going back to school and finishing my education. My friends all graduated a while ago, but that's okay. They've all come to visit me in the hospital, happy that I'm still alive. Pretty soon I'll get my life back on track, and whatever I choose to do with my life, I'm sure my real parents will be proud. This story is loosely inspired from a real-world event. In February 2025, a desperate cry for freedom erupted in Waterbury, Connecticut. Emergency crews responded on February 17th to a house fire, uncovering a horrifying tale. A 32-year-old man, trapped for nearly 2 decades by his stepmother, Kimberly Sullivan, had set the fire to escape captivity. He told police of years spent locked inside a storage room, surviving on minimal food and water. Severely affected by smoke and flames, he finally revealed the abuse. Sullivan, 56, was arrested, though she denied the allegations. For police, it was one of the worst cases of cruelty ever witnessed in their careers.
Last week, I took a 48-hour bus ride to visit my aunt and uncle in Denver. Most of the way, I listened to music through my earbuds while an old red-haired woman snored loudly next to me. By the time we crossed into Colorado, my earbuds had run out of battery, so I couldn't listen to music anymore. I decided to use the bus's Wi-Fi and scroll through Instagram. I've been posting photos of the scenery through my whole trip, and I saw that a lot of people were commenting. Suddenly, I got a new notification for a new follower. Some dark-haired guy named James. I didn't recognize his photo, and his account was set to private, so I didn't follow him back. The bus stopped for a 30-minute bathroom break in some mountain town, and we all had to get out. I walked around the bathrooms and snapped some photos of the mountains in the distance. By the time I was finished, the driver was already calling for us to get back in the bus. I went to my seat, but the red-haired lady was no longer sitting next to me. Instead, it was a young guy with dark hair. It took me a second to realize that it was James, the one who had just followed me on Instagram. I guess he'd been sitting behind me for the whole drive. I smiled at him and then sat down. He introduced himself and explained that the red-haired woman had gotten off at the last stop, and he wanted to sit next to me. He asked if it was okay. I was a bit creeped out, but I was too awkward to tell him no. The bus got back on the road. James and I chatted for a bit about how beautiful the surroundings were, and he complimented me on my Instagram photos. He seemed like a nice enough guy, but he came on a little too strong. He was acting like we were suddenly best friends just because he started following me on Instagram. I put my earbuds back in even though they didn't work, just so I had an excuse not to talk to him. He didn't take the hint. He brought up Instagram again and asked me why I didn't follow him back. I politely told him that I would once we got to Denver, but that wasn't good enough for him. He told me to do it right now because he wanted me to see all of his photos. He said that I was an expert photographer, and he knew that I'd appreciate his stuff. I begrudgingly pulled out my phone and opened Instagram. I went back to my notifications and found his account. He watched me as I clicked the follow button. I didn't like how insistent he was. I told myself as soon as we got off the bus in Denver, I'd immediately unfollow him. I don't like people telling me what to do. He didn't accept my request at first. He just sat there, smiling at me. Then he asked, "Are you extreme?" I had no idea what he was getting at. Not really," I said. "I am," he told me. Then he waited for me to ask why, but I didn't feel like it. The sun was already setting, though I wasn't really tired at all. He nudged me on the side. "Don't go to sleep yet," he said. "I want you to see my photos." I opened my eyes and turned towards him again. I was about to tell him off, but there was something in his expression that unnerved me. I really didn't want to piss him off. So I looked down at my phone. He'd accepted my friend request, so now I could see everything he posted, and it was horrifying. The description said that he was a special effects makeup artist, and all of his photos were of murder victims. Really gory stuff. Blood oozing down people's faces, severed limbs, corpses. "Do you like them?" he asked. "They're very realistic," I told him. "You should see my latest one. I think you'll really like it." He smiled as he posted another photo. It took me a second, but when I saw it on my phone, I gasped. It showed an old red-haired woman with a knife stuck in her head. The same woman that had been sitting next to me for most of the bus ride. I could tell from the background of the photo that it was taken next to the bathrooms at our last stop. James wasn't a makeup artist at all. These photos were real. He murdered all these people, including that poor old lady. But why? Was it just because he wanted to sit next to me? He watched my expression change, waiting for me to figure out that he was a psychopath. "You're not going to say anything, are you?" he asked. "Please, don't hurt me," I whispered. He laughed. "On a bus filled with people, I would never." It was now pitch black outside, and we still had an hour before we got to Denver. I was frozen in my seat, too scared to move. James wouldn't stop staring at me. "Want to see something cool?" he asked. I really didn't, but I was too afraid to answer. He reached into the front pocket of his sweater and pulled out a bloody knife. It was the one he used on the red-haired woman, and it was still stained with blood. Cool, right? I can't wait to use it again. Panicked, I started to get out of my seat, but he pulled me back down. I could feel the edge of the knife pressing against my side. He leaned closer and whispered in my ear, "Don't make a scene." "What do you want from me?" I promise I won't say anything." "I just want you to like my work," he said. "I could tell from your Instagram that you have tons of followers, and I'm a little jealous. I want to be popular too. Maybe if I take your photo, I'd get a lot of followers too." I hated that I was so scared. Then I realized that all I needed to do was play by his rules. So I told him that we could take a selfie on my phone and that I'd tag him. He seemed surprised by the offer. But then he put the knife back in his pocket and said, "Okay." I raised my phone and very quickly snapped a selfie of the two of us. Then I posted it. He looked at the photo on his phone, and that distracted him long enough for me to jump out of my seat and run towards the front of the bus. I screamed for the driver to stop. The driver slammed on the brakes and looked at me angrily. I pointed at James, who had stood up, and told the driver that James had assaulted me. The driver didn't ask any questions. I guess he'd dealt with inappropriate passengers before. He opened the bus door and ordered James to get out, even though we were in the middle of nowhere. James walked down the aisle, smiling from ear to ear. He looked at me just one more time and then walked off the bus. "See you soon," he said, before the doors closed behind him. I got back in my seat and we kept driving on. It took me a while to calm down. Pretty soon we made it to Denver and I went straight from the bus station to the police station. I told the cops everything that happened, but when I tried to show them James on Instagram, he had already blocked me. The cops assured me that they would look into it. It's been 2 days now and I still don't know what happened. I haven't looked on my Instagram since.